Let's talk about evidence. So, evidence is at the center of our evidence based entrepreneurship focus, and we do so that we can rapidly and continuously innovate and build and develop ventures and leaders. So, there are a lot of different ways to think about evidence, and I wanted to spend a moment just focusing on the central core notion of evidence, which is that in order to best launch your ventures and leadership endeavors, really making sure that we understand the marketplace at hand, our target customers, and get to know their needs and desires and their interpretation of our offering as frequently and fluidly as possible. So, evidence is paramount really to successful ventures, and we use a great many scientific processes to get from point A to point B with understanding and applying evidence. So, we think about evidence often within the business world and within the scientific community as primary and then secondary research. So, we have a variety of different videos that'll dive deeper in that, but wanted to give you an overview of primary and secondary research. So, primary research we think about often through the lens of the empathy development that we focus so deeply on. So, we say, get out there, get to know your customers, put a prototype in front of them, connect with it, find out what their wants and needs are, and really help to sculpt your test cards, your offering, and the way that you're connecting with customers based on that evidence that we're having one-on-one. So, empathy development and in-depth prototype research is incredibly important to our program, and that understanding and direct new collection of evidence is what we think of as primary research. There's also a very important area called secondary research. So, secondary research is research that we collect from the world around us. So, that might be things like web searches, or maybe there's an interesting and useful report in the Harvard Business Review or within an article that you read. A very important way for us to think about secondary research is work that helps us to understand and interpret the overall characters of a community. So let me give you some examples of that. Let's say you want to open up a coffee stand in Bellingham. So your primary research would relate to getting to know target customers, finding out what their wants and needs and desires are, what their individual paths from point A to point B are, and what would make them be interested in coming and frequenting your coffee shop. There's also a very important other area of secondary research, which is to say, often we don't directly know the customers that we don't yet know. So finding out within secondary research how many coffee shops are within this area, what are their offerings, how many people are within a certain wage range, what are their traffic patterns. Those are called ring studies. So ring studies help us to understand the overall community surrounding a business. So that's all within secondary research. So we'd look at Census Bureau information, potentially industry reports, different online resources, and gather information that applies to the overall demographic that you're looking at or community that you're looking at. So you might wonder, well, why does that happen? I have a really deep understanding and knowledge of my target customer. So secondary research can really help us to look more broadly at trends within that customer base to help us to create better hypotheses that we can put within our test cards, better questions for customers, as well as helping us look from that direct one-on-one interaction into a broader landscape of what might be possible within the overall community. Also, like I mentioned, it's very helpful to help us form questions that are the right things that we want to drive at, helps us give us a macro sense, and helps us to have a way to check our overall assumptions. So in our program, we want you to use both methods, the in-depth empathy development work, as well as understanding the macro environment around you. And so throughout the program, we'll focus on both of those, primary and secondary research, and both are incredibly important to your evidence-based entrepreneurship journey. So for further information about these topics, check out our test card videos, as well as some of the other secondary research and primary research videos that we have, including how to survey and some of the other web-based search information. So again, we're here to help. Any questions you have, happy to reach out and connect, and we look forward to checking in with you about your evidence and how that might help push your leadership and your venture forward. Thank you.